Go ahead and call the July 16th meeting order. Roll call.
Neil Johnson,
Here.
Greg Collier, Andrew Barker, Joel Gardner.
Here.
Steve Smith.
Here.
Bull Schoonover.
Here.
Micah Thomason.
Here.
I did it wrong.
Minutes will be presented next meeting. So we'll ask for comments from the audience. Daniel from Summit, is he here?
No, he's not
No,
going to be
he's
here
not
today.
here. Okay. So we'll go to the airport operation report. James Smith, Laura Myers. Who's going to do this today?
As far as all of our hangars are rented, people's paying their rent, we're staying on top of anybody that gets 30-plus days behind. So all that's good. We're still 100% full.
Not much.
100% full with 50-plus names waiting. So all that's well. On the terminal update, we had a structural engineer come out and look at it because we didn't know if there was more damage than just the damage to the stucco. So he's going to report back to the insurance, and then they're going to let us know what he determined. But he doesn't think there's any structural damage to the building, so it may just be stucco repair. So, but we haven't got his report back yet.
Have we had any luck at all determining for sure who did the damage, what company it was or anything?
The only thing we know is Amazon trailer, but as far as that go, they couldn't get any truck numbers or trailer numbers or company names or nothing off of it. They just seen the logo. But Ernest has it, so I haven't heard anything back out of him.
That's my fault.
On the low-flying aircraft, I think that's, we have some helicopters flying power lines, inspecting for the power company. We had the feed mill call in and complain about it, so if anybody sees helicopters hovering over power lines, and they're out video and recording for the power company. Other than that, that's it.
Okay. Thank you, James. Wyman?
Well, things have been kind of unusual lately with the pandemic and everything. I know y'all asked for a contract for designing a hangar, and I was looking at the revenue statement and then looking at the contract. We're ahead on our revenue this year by $70-something thousand, almost exactly what Garver is quoting the fee to design those hangars, so we got the money to pay for the design.
And you did have a comment on that painting of the hangars also, did you not?
Right, we
And
took bids
we
on,
were-
and James can explain it better than I can on the hangars.
Yeah, we took bids on painting all of our hangars up top and along with the fuel farm, and it was roughly $90,000 for everything. But if we just paint hangars 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, all those T hangars, and 11, which is on the south side of the terminal, that'll take care of all of our nasty looking hangars for $500 over our grant. So that's $69,500.
You think we can get him down to 69? I think, if you just say this, how much we got,
Possibly.
I think, well, I know Gennaro will.
Is that two coats?
Yes. Yeah, and that's power washing and priming where it's rusty. So he can be power washing every hangar.
We
that
probably need a
Gino's?
motion to
Yes.
approve that.
Now,
Now, how many hangars would that be that we wouldn't paint if we dropped it down? Any?
Three
Three?
corporates.
Okay, the three
9.
corporate, which are on the north side.
Yes.
Now, are they actually in better shape appearance-wise right now?
They don't look as bad, yes.
Okay. And maybe not quite as visible to the public?
Right. You have to make an effort to look over to see them because hangar 11 or 10B blocks them, and that's our newest hangar as far as the corporate wise goes, so it's still pretty dark blue.
Okay.
So with all these T hangars getting painted, it would make it a lot nicer.
So we're at 69,000 on the paint, 69.5 on the bid. We have 69,000. Hopefully, we can make that balance out.
Proposal or anything, or
Pardon me?
you can make a motion to accept?
Yeah, this is the bids that came in. There was another bid came in that was lower, but it didn't meet with the specs.
Well, I'll make a motion that we proceed with Gennaro's painting and see if they can do it for what we have in the grant, and see if we can get that taken care of, and we'll just avoid those other three on the far side until a further date.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call?
Collier,
Yes.
Gardner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Schoonover,
Yes.
Thomason,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes. Now, we talked a little bit, Wyman did, about this, the 79,000 bid on design for Garver. I understood before the meeting, a comment about trading some money. What were we talking about there that we could,
We were talking about whether we paint those additional hangars or not, and I suggested that we need to use that money to pay the engineer to design this hangar. We just maximize the grant and then go on to the hangar project, the construction project.
no,
So adding the 3 hangars to the construction project. Is that what you're saying? Painting the 3 hangars to the construction project? Is that what you said? I couldn't hear you.
Well, what I was recommending was that we maximize the grant and stop and leave those other hangars unpainted that the grant didn't cover. Take the cash that we do have to pay Garver to design the hangar that y'all wanted.
okay, see if I understand this. If you did the math, we could use the 69,000 in the grant, plus money we have in the bank, and we could paint all the hangars.
Right.
But if we back up to where the hangars are at the 69,000, gives us exactly enough money to go ahead and pay this engineer bill for the design. So would we rather paint the rest of the hangars or go ahead and pay this bill? I think that's the question, right?
Right.
I'd prefer to get the new building started myself. The only question I would have on that would be the 3 hangars that we're considering not painting. If we come back in a year to paint them, and I mean, I know we don't know exactly, but are we getting a discount, a pretty good discount to do them all versus the 6, and then we come back and do 3 later? Is that going to cost us quite a bit more?
No, on their bids, they gave us a price per hanger versus any hangers could be pulled out of it. So it was all going for what each hanger would go for.
Perfect, okay.
Yeah, there's enough work there that the way they bid, they won't,
Then I like our
difference.
previous
Okay.
motion to continue with that, and yes, and to plan on using that money for the Garver design portion of getting our building started so that we're ready. Again, the whole purpose was to have something in line if there's additional money that comes grant-wise, that we can be first in line with that we're ready to proceed if there's additional money. It's our hope that there would be additional money and that we don't know about it just yet, but we wanted to have a project ready rather than spending 3 months getting it prepared.
Right.
So we'll be set with that, and that'll meet both of those goals for us.
okay. And that's a motion?
I can make a
Well,
motion.
We're gonna need a motion that we use cash on hand to pay Garver rather than,
Okay. I would make the motion that we use the cash that we have on hand to go ahead and pay for the design for Garver, to have the project ready for when we have other additional funds available to do the project. Second.
okay. Motion second. Roll call?
Gardner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Schoonover,
Yes.
Thomason,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Collier.
Yes.
Adam, did you have anything?
Yes, thank you, by the way, for approving the contract. Just a few things I wanted to note about the contract. So you should have all gotten at least a new exhibit we passed out. There's just a reminder of what we're scoping to build. After we had our June 2nd special meeting, I called Patsy Christie with planning just to make sure I fully understood what they're going to require from the city's end for the hangar. It will go through large-scale development, just like any facility would, and they are going to require a bit of an upgraded facade on the 265 side, just because there's no guarantee another hangar will go in next to it. And so I put that in the scope as well. And they also wanted just a very high-level schematic of what this could look like if that full apron was built out, kind of like we show on the exhibit with those dash lines and how people would park and things like that. So we'll develop that for planning just so we have an idea of where we'd access 265 for parking and things of that nature. And then one other item of note, so we went ahead and scoped the contract all the way through construction. If for some reason we get to the point of ready to get bids and we don't feel like that the money is there for the state yet, we can stop, and the contract value would come down closer to $50,000, and we'd hold until we start construction, and then we already got scoped to do everything, but we'd hold until y'all tell us. I will give you a quick update. Revenue for the state, they had their meeting yesterday. Last month's revenue was about $300,000. Compare that to same month last year was $600,000, so they are seeing a dip right now, which they expected. I said it's a good thing for y'all. You never want to go to them on a month where they have a bad month. You want to wait till the good months. And so I do concur with your reasoning to go ahead and get it done now, and then when you see a good month coming, you go ahead and throw it in their lap for a grant. And keep in mind, those grants are first come, first serve. Deadline to get a grant to them is the last day of a month to be on the next month's agenda. So we'll get this thing rolling through design, large-scale development, get it all approved. We'll keep you abreast of that, and then we will hold if we need to before we take bids and see what the climate looks like at that time. Any other questions on that project?
I've got a question on this.
Yes, sir.
On these other lots, we'll call them.
Mm-hmm.
How much of the infrastructure is going to be done in this project that will complement that? I know the paving is not done, but is the water, sewer, and other stuff going to be in place to go ahead and develop, if you will, the other lots, or to build them?
You know, honestly, it's a great question. A lot of that's already in place to develop them. Thankfully, all of the utilities are on this side of 265, the airport side of 265, and so it's all right there. We may have to extend a hydrant for this new facility, and if that's the case, we'll try to put it in a location where it could serve more than just our facility, but would serve the other facilities as well. But from a water, sewer, electric, gas standpoint, it's all right there along the highway. You can pull service lines as you need them. So not a
Fire
lot of
hydrants?
infrastructure. That's what I was saying. I think we have pretty good coverage on 265. We have to pull one in to the airfield a little bit. We'll try to put it to where it could cover both hangars that are going to be closest to the taxiway instead of just our new hangar.
And then the storm drainage will be done, I'm sure, for all of it.
That's right. Yeah, that's one thing Patsy wanted to know that we would do is we'll go ahead and design for a worst-case scenario, full build-out of the whole apron and make sure our pre-post storm drainage takes into account ultimate impervious area.
I had a question and then a request.
Yes, sir.
The question was, what was the additional facade? What do you think the cost? Do you have any type of estimate on what that's going to cost us?
Yeah, 5% of the building cost, something like that. It's going to be something kind of like we did on Powell Hangar, more than likely, like half of it will be blocked up just on the outside of the facility and some landscaping and things of that nature. So it's not a whole lot of money from a percentage standpoint, it's just something extra, you know.
So 50,000 or so, because this is about $1 million project.
I would say probably 5% of the building cost, not the total project cost,
Okay.
so probably closer to like 20, 25,000, but Neil could probably answer that better than I could. You know, souped up facade on one side of the building, probably not a whole lot of money there.
We're going to have to be moving fences. Are we going to go ahead and encompass this whole project?
That is correct. I believe we do have the plan to go ahead and fence off everything that we would need for this project. Yes, I believe that is the plan.
So my request was, or that I'd like to ask, is that we don't always coincide perfectly with the state, and our plan is to be in a position where we're ready to be first in line. So in that same thought process, can you tell us if you know there's a good, once this is set, you can tell us, because if we had met, it's like Tuesday of this week instead, we would have missed out on that if it had been a great month. So it might be something we could do, like a special meeting be called, that we can go ahead and do a motion to get started with the process and go ahead and submit the grant to the state rather than waiting an additional month. Because the deadlines for the state are different than when you follow me?
Right. I want to make sure that does that make sense?
Well, we're offset from the state's announcement of when their funding sources are.
So if we know, say our meeting had been Tuesday, yesterday was the meeting from the state, instead of 300, they had a $1.2 million month, that's when we need to submit it. I don't want to wait an additional month for our next meeting to be able
Yep.
to submit that. So I'd ask Garver to contact Rose, and let's get a special meeting called if that's the case, so that we're able to submit on the state's time frame, not on our meetings.
Can
I
we
agree.
do it, can we do it today conditional upon, or does it need to coincide on that day?
Can we do it conditional?
Can we approve what the application at the, well, let me,
In other words, we wouldn't have to meet to submit.
Right.
we could already have it conditional
It would
on.
be pre-done, so that when it happened, we didn't have to meet. Garver could just say, okay, we've got this, and we're requesting the money.
Yeah.
And we've already got that behind us. Is
Yeah.
that what you're trying to get at?
Yes. uh-huh.
Yeah.
I just would like to be notified before we make that decision. I think we should make that decision at the time. There's no telling what's going to happen over the next 6 months and what things are, we may need to, we're able to hold this project for 20,000 and have it started and hold it at that line. And then we're committing to the rest of the project at that point. So rather than just having a conditional thing, I'd want to know, even if it requires us all to do a vote or have a special meeting, we're spending $1 million.
We could have a
don't
Zoom
know.
meeting.
I don't have any problem at all calling special meetings, so.
Huh?
I don't have a problem at all calling.
I just would want to know a
special
month after it's already been submitted, I want to be first in line. It is our goal and our effort in this, that's why we're doing the work now, is to be first in line. I don't want to be a month late on it because of the timing of our
meeting. Understand,
scheduled meeting.
yeah.
So if you can just let us know on that.
Understood, absolutely.
I'd feel more comfortable with that than on a conditional, and not to mention, that's such a subjective thing, like what's a good month? Like, it'd be nice to know if we've got one that you think is good.
Understand.
Yeah.
We can't get in line right now.
Not until you have bids in hand. Yeah, you got to get the bids in hand to get in line.
But I mean, if we had the bids, why do we need to wait on a good month? If we submit it, and we're first in line to have a good month, then they automatically give it to us, or?
Yeah, really, trying to figure out the timing of the when to apply will really inform your decision on if you want to go ahead and advertise for bids right after the design's complete, or if you are forecasting probably a few more bad months, you would want to maybe wait and get those bids for a couple months, because bids have an expiration date on them.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't want to grab bids, and then you know you're going to have 2 or 3 bad months coming up to where you've just lost 60 to 90 days of your bids. Typically, bids only are good for about 120 days, or else you start getting into issues with escalation of bid pricing. So that's where the thought process would really come through, is when do you want to go out there and grab those bids from the market to make sure that you have the best 2 or 3 month window to get the money.
So when they've got this $300,000, do they fund smaller projects, or do they hold that money and let it build?
The states, if they have good months, will they fund small projects or hold money and let it bank up? They typically try to, for the most part, at least lately, they try to, there's enough demand to where any revenue they get in a given month, they have the projects they can fund in that month, even if it means they're funding small projects. They don't typically bank money in their reserves for big projects. They usually try to send out a month what they get in that month in revenue.
How long will it take you to get ready to go?
Ready to advertise for bids, we're probably looking at 2 to 3 months. Just got to get through the large-scale development process through Planning Commission.
And then how long is the bid process?
3 to 4 weeks, just depends on complexity and timing.
And we can't get in line until we have that 3 to 4 weeks.
That's correct.
So we're going to wait about 3 months
Mhm.
before we could even do bids, and then we can't get in line until then.
Yeah.
So we just need to watch the trend of what's happening with the state and what the money looks like coming in.
We just need to keep pushing forward so that we're,
Yep.
Honestly, my goal for y'all will be to have bids in hand to be on the January commission meeting, because they always skip December, which means January, they got 2 months of revenue for January, and so they have a bigger pot of money, better chance of getting a big project through them.
Sounds like we're perfectly set up for that. We can push bids back as late as we can to make sure we have them for that January
Yep.
meeting.
okay.
And then just separate topic, just a quick update on the East Parallel Taxiway Extension Project. A reminder, that'll be the extension of the Taxiway Bravo or the east taxiway all the way to the north end of the runway. It'll also include lighting the whole east side taxiway and signage. That project is in the FAA's hands. We submitted that grant application, I think, a couple weeks ago. We expected a grant offer from them any day. This will be for the design of that project. The first thing we'll do on that project is start analyzing Spring Creek, because that taxiway will cross Spring Creek. Of course, Spring Creek is a very popular creek right now in Springdale as far as making sure that we don't cause any floodplain issues with that creek. And so we do expect to have to go through the full Clomer process, which is the same thing that I know the city just went through recently with trying to get the detention basin set up to reduce the floodplain downtown. And so we'll be doing that same thing. We feel pretty confident it won't be a big deal for us, but we will have to extend those box culverts that go under the runway out further to cover our taxiway as well. But that's a pretty long lead time, so that'll be the first thing we try to do is get that Clomer process moving and do the analysis on that.
You brought up the detention. Have we heard any movement on that detention pond that was supposed to be emergent for us to make a decision to turn that section of the property into a detention pond? Is that getting done?
Sorry?
The detention pond. It was pretty much really emergent that we get that decision made that day.
Well,
and nothing's been done that I can see.
Yes, but to answer that, and to explain that, they had to have an answer so they could start they were in very preliminary planning when they started that. So they still got a lot of design work to go. It's going to be a while before they do that. So yeah, it was an urgent deal there, but they're going to take into account this property too. But correct me if I'm wrong, but when they design that drainage, they design everything that's in that basin to optimal flow. So it shouldn't matter how much, they're going to count our project as being total concrete.
I would expect that's what they would do.
Well, that's the way
basically, future
that's the way I've
conditions,
always
yeah.
had to do it.
Yeah.
When I was designing drainage, so, it should already be there, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And FDN, who's the consultant that I know the city is working with on that design, who did that Clomer for that project, did reach out to us just to say, hey, let us know when you start designing your project, just to make sure that the assumptions we made were good. And so to your answer, Neil, yes, they should have taken that into account, and hopefully when we send them the design alignments, it all lines up and that they expect it was what they expected it to be.
Well, I just
Simplify that, if they didn't, every time you did a project up there, they'd have to redesign that drainage.
I just know, or I can't say I know, but I was led to believe that us making this determination was a determining factor for somebody in the downtown area to start development. And even though on paper, we say we're putting a detention pond there, if somebody downtown starts development, we haven't detained jack because we're not holding any water, we're not preventing any water from coming downtown except for on paper. So when are we actually going to see that work getting done?
That's a good question, but it'll follow the process of the engineers and bidding process and everything, but I would say it's going to be a while.
Okay.
I really do. I don't think you'll see it in the real near future, maybe 2 years.
Which means none of the development downtown can happen for those 2 years also.
Yeah, they would probably go ahead and start that, because this is the long-range plan of are we going to stop the downtown from flooding? And
Right.
that's what it's about.
Right.
They're looking out there 50 years or longer, probably. Yeah, I understand, yeah, that's the way, that's typical, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So that's all I have. We'll be working hopefully soon. Thankfully, the FAA finally got to the digital age, and they signed their grants electronically now instead of by paper. So it's like a 24-hour process. But I'll keep in touch with Wyman and Rose. It'll just be signed by the mayor, and then you'll have the grant, and we'll start design. Move on. Any questions for me?
Thanks, Adam.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Old business? Comments from commissioners?
James, do we have any sort of a timeline as to when we could start painting our hangars? Has that been part of the bid or anything? Or we have any idea how their workload is?
I can tell you. I know they're quoting 3 weeks now on just the simplest projects, but he'll get this thing. I know the boy real well. I was talking to him the other day about another project, and he will, if you give him the go-ahead, he'll give you a time frame, and he'll be right on it.
I think from a time of year, you know, yeah, I think now's the time to get it done, you know, for sure, weather-wise.
Yes.
Okay. On the A&J construction situation on the south end, are we literally at the mercy of the city attorney to keep us apprised as to what's happening there with regard to that property and who owns what? I wonder, would it, maybe at the next meeting, could the city attorney maybe be asked to give us an update on where we are with it, or any sort of
Good idea.
timeline to expect in the way of action?
Sure, the
That'd be a good
bankruptcy has
idea.
not been determined yet, so they don't have the details of the bankruptcy, so he's probably not able to tell us a whole lot, but
I think, I'm like Bill, I'd like to hear an attorney opinion of where we're at, what we can do and what we can't do, and then we can fall within those guidelines. Yep.
That old boy out there looks like an old airport commissioner.
Oh. You got anything to say today?
Not really, I'll just tell you, everything's going fine, looks like.
Yeah. Good to see your smiling face.
Here is, Sam.
So, yeah, how many years were you on this commission? For people who don't know? Yeah, a long time. Long time. And before that, he had history at the airport, mechanics, things of this nature.
Always welcome, always welcome.
Yeah. Well, if there's no other comments,
I had one item I wanted to bring up, and I'm not sure if the tower or how they operate, if there's going to be a plane flying low over Springdale, do they have to file something with the tower or FBO or something to notify them? Like, I got some calls of a low-flying helicopter over high-powered electric lines. Well, the utility had hired the helicopter to inspect their lines. So it'd help if there was some way that I could know that was going to happen before it did.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great common courtesy for them to announce that to you, but unless they're flying inside the airspace which the tower controls, they aren't required to give anybody any information as long as they're following flight rules while they're flying. But pilots in the room could probably help me out on that more, but that's the way I understand it. If they're outside of the tower's airspace, they don't have to talk to tower or give them any indication.
I don't think it'll be any more invasive than the helicopters out there now giving rides.
Yeah, that's true.
From the mall and other places, so they'll fall within the ATC
Yeah.
criteria. Yeah, should be okay. Anything else? Then we'll adjourn.